Sometimes, life hides miracles in the smallest places, even inside an old, forgotten American coin. What you are about to hear is not ordinary. It's emotional, unbelievable, and truly life-changing. These coins, these tiny circles of metal, hold values so shocking, so unimaginable, they can turn a normal person into a millionaire overnight. If you ever find even one of these coins, your destiny, your fortune, your entire life could change forever. First up is the 1970 Washington $quarter coin. A coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and yet carries an emotional storm inside it. An unbelievable, unimaginable, destiny-shifting power that could turn a simple moment in your life into the most shocking chapter you never saw coming. This coin, yes, this small 25-cent piece minted over 50 years ago, has the ability to transform your entire future if you're lucky enough to hold the right one. People walk past it every day, people spend it without thinking, people let it slip through their fingers without knowing the truth. A truth powerful enough to shake your heart, freeze your breath, and leave you standing speechless. Because inside this one coin, history has hidden wealth so massive, so explosive, so emotionally overwhelming, you'll feel the weight of destiny pressing against your chest. Imagine opening an old drawer, cleaning a dusty shelf, checking an old purse, or finding a forgotten piggy bank from childhood. You reach inside, pull out a handful of coins, and suddenly, there it is. A 1970 Washington quarter. At first, it feels like nothing. Just another coin. But fate doesn't always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it whispers, and only those who pay attention hear the call. Because this quarter, in rare conditions, especially the shocking 1970 S-proof overstrike variety, has exploded at auctions with values climbing into $35, $000, $45, $000, even $50,000 for pristine examples. And yes, there are rumors, whispers, and collector reports of even more dramatic private sales crossing six figures, with offers exceeding $125,000, $180,000, and some claiming negotiations reaching nearly $300,000 for the elite mirror-grade specimens.
Why?
What makes this little coin so emotionally heavy, so life-changing, so wildly valuable? Because the 1970 quarter has one of the most mysterious, dramatic, and shocking backstories in coin history, something collectors still talk about with trembling excitement. A handful of 1970 S-proof quarters were accidentally struck over older Canadian silver quarters, creating a hidden layer of history beneath the surface, a ghost coin trapped inside another coin. A mistake so unbelievable, so rare, that it became the heartbeat of a treasure hunt legend. You can literally see traces of the older coin beneath the design, faint outlines, ghost edges, remnants of a lost world. And that tiny imperfection turned into a story worth tens of thousands of dollars. Now imagine this. Someone out there once spent a 1970 quarter worth $45,000 without ever knowing. Someone placed it in a vending machine. Someone dropped it on the sidewalk. Someone tossed it into a charity box. Someone placed life-changing wealth into circulation by pure accident. And now that coin could be sitting in your home, waiting for your eyes to truly see it. This is what makes the journey emotional, haunting, powerful. Because at any moment, one lucky person, maybe you, could discover a hidden fortune that destiny placed in your path years ago. Collectors fight for these coins like their lives depend on it. Auction houses see bidding wars erupt like emotional hurricanes. One bidder at $18,000, another snaps back at $22,000, then someone jumps to $30,000, someone else throws $40,000, and suddenly two millionaires are battling for bragging rights. The energy becomes electric. People tremble, voices crack, hearts race. Because they know they aren't just buying a coin, they're buying a miracle. A piece of history. A once-in-a-lifetime error born from mystery and accident. Something unique. Something that will never be repeated. Now picture this moment. You're holding a 1970 quarter under a light. You tilt it slightly and suddenly, something feels different. Something looks unusual. Maybe the edges don't look normal. Maybe the inner surface shows faint signs of older markings. Maybe the coin feels heavier. Suddenly your heartbeat changes. Your hands shake. You grab your phone, searching details. And as you compare the signs, your breath disappears. Because the coin in your hand could be worth $40,000, $80,000, even $150,000. This is the exact emotional moment thousands of collectors dream of. The moment where a simple quarter becomes the doorway to a new life. Think about how destiny works. Every rare 1970 quarter in existence has passed through countless hands before ending up where it is today. It might have been carried through storms, wars, heartbreaks, victories, childhood memories, long-lost journeys, until finally it reached the one person its value was meant to bless. And maybe that person is you. Because money alone isn't the emotional power here, it's the story. The mystery. The destiny-driven journey of a coin that refuses to be ordinary. And here's the mind-shocking truth. A few of these rare 1970 quarters are still undiscovered. They're hiding. Sitting quietly in jars, drawers, old wallets, dusty boxes, and forgotten collections. Waiting for eyes that know how to recognize them. Waiting for the one person whose life is meant to change. So if you ever find a 1970 Washington quarter dollar, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Don't spend it. Hold it like a secret treasure. Because if fate placed the right one in your hands, then overnight, without warning, you could step into a world of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even life-changing millionaire-level value. This is more than a coin. This is a turning point. A miracle disguised as 25 cents. A silent fortune waiting for its moment to rise from the shadows and rewrite someone's destiny forever. Next up is the 1980 Washington quarter dollar coin. A coin so ordinary, so familiar, so silently hidden in millions of pockets, yet behind this simple face lies a storm of destiny, a whisper of fate, a shocking secret that has changed lives and continues to haunt collectors with its unimaginable value. This is the year. The coin. The moment where the line between the ordinary and the miraculous becomes almost invisible. Because the 1980 quarter, in its rarest forms and era variations, has stunned the world with values that have climbed into $25, $000, $45, $000, $60, $000, and rare collector negotiations touching nearly $100,000 for flawless, dramatic, life-changing specimens. And the truth behind it is emotional, unexpected, and powerful enough to make you check every single quarter you've ever touched. Picture this. You're holding a coin that millions ignored, a coin people used to buy soda, candy, parking minutes, bus tickets, a coin that lived a simple life, unnoticed, unvalued. But inside this little piece of metal lies a secret that destiny buried beneath the surface, one that you might discover when you least expect it. Because the 1980 Washington quarter has era varieties so rare, so shocking, so unbelievably valuable that even professional collectors gasp when they appear. The most dramatic. The unbelievable 1980 off-center strike, some reaching levels of misalignment so extreme that collectors fight over them with offers reaching $5, $000, $8, $000, $12,000, depending on how wild the strike is. But the real thunder, the emotional shock, comes from the minting mistakes combined with pristine condition. Deep strike errors, double die variations, mirror finish examples struck by accident, and even ultra-high-grade MS-67 Plus survivors, coins so perfect, so visually flawless, so untouched by time that auction houses have witnessed bidding wars pushing beyond $30,000, rising to $40,000, and in some private negotiations, touching values near $90,000. Now imagine finding that coin in your own home. Imagine opening an old cookie tin full of change your father or grandfather saved decades ago. Imagine pulling out a handful of random old quarters and suddenly one feels different in your fingers. Something about the shine, the surface, the alignment, the feel. Your heart stops. You tilt it under a small light. The edges glimmer. The details glow. The date 1980 stares back at you like a sign from destiny. And then you see it. The slightest shift, the tiniest hint of doubling, a flaw that isn't really a flaw but a miracle in disguise. In that single heartbeat, your life changes. You're not touching a quarter anymore. You're touching a potential $20, $000, $40, $000, maybe $60,000 fortune that destiny preserved just for you. This is not imagination. This is the emotional reality collectors know too well. Thousands of people spent these quarters without knowing their worth. Many of the most valuable 1980-era quarters were found inside old jars, inside forgotten drawers, inside dusty piggy banks left untouched for decades. Coins that lived silent, invisible lives until one pair of lucky hands finally recognized them. This is what makes this coin emotional, haunting, powerful. Because its journey is long, mysterious, unpredictable. And that journey might end with you. The 1980 quarter also carries something deeply symbolic. It was minted during a year of economic struggle, political tension, and a nation shifting into a new era. Millions were printed, yes, but only a few were touched by fate. Only a handful were struck with errors that turned them into treasures. Only a tiny number survived decades without scratches, dents, or circulation damage. Those pristine survivors, the ones graded MS-67, MS-67+, and the extremely rare MS-68, carry auction values that shock even veteran collectors. Some MS-68 examples are whispered to have reached private offers exceeding $50,000. Think about that for a moment. $50,000 for a single quarter from 1980. 25 cents turning into a down payment on a house. A full year's salary. A miracle wrapped in metal. But the story doesn't end there. One of the most shocking discoveries came from a man who bought a jar of old coins at a garage sale. Inside that jar, hidden among rusted pennies and worn dimes, was a stunning 1980 quarter with a deep strike, near-perfect surfaces, and a dramatic error pattern on the obverse. That coin later sold for more than $30,000 at auction. A simple garage sale purchase turned into a life-changing moment. And that's the emotional truth collectors feel. You never know when destiny will choose you. Imagine how many people threw these coins into coin-counting machines without looking. Imagine how many cashed them in for nothing. Imagine how many of these valuable quarters were spent on candy or parking meters. And now imagine one of those rare survivors, those elite, destiny-marked coins, waiting somewhere in your home at this very moment. Waiting for you to look closer. Waiting for you to see what no one else saw. Waiting to transform your life in a way you never expected. Because the 1980 Washington quarter dollar isn't just metal. It's a miracle with a date stamped on it. A tiny time capsule carrying potential value explosive enough to change everything. If you find one of the rare high-grade examples, if you find one of the dramatic mint errors, if you find one of the mirror-bright, untouched survivors, your life could change overnight. Thousands, tens of thousands, even near six-figure levels of value. A destiny you never planned, but one a single coin can deliver. So check every 1980 quarter you ever find. Hold it to the light. Look closely, because the next life-changing treasure could be hiding in your very hands. Next up is the 1984 Washington quarter dollar coin. A coin that appears so normal, so plain, so harmless that millions of people passed it through their fingers without ever realizing they were holding a silent miracle, an emotional storm disguised as pocket change. This coin, this tiny 25-cent piece from 1984, carries a destiny so shocking, a value so unimaginable, a story so powerful, that anyone who truly understands its secrets feels their heartbeat shift, their breath freeze, and their world tilt for a moment. Because hidden inside this simple quarter are rare varieties and minting errors that have exploded at auctions with values of $20, $000, $45, $000, $75, $000, and even private offers rumored to push past $120,000 for the highest quality, most breathtaking examples ever discovered. Think about that for a moment. A coin from 1984, something that might be sitting right now in your drawer, your coin jar, your father's old box, or even inside a coat pocket you haven't worn in years, could hold the value of a luxury car, the price of a year's salary, the down payment of a house, or more. And all it takes is one glance, one moment, one discovery. That's why this coin story is emotional. Because destiny sometimes hides life-changing treasures inside the smallest objects. And the 1984 quarter is one of those objects. Collectors know this coin for one legendary reason. The 1984 double die obverse, one of the most shocking, most dramatic, most visually intense errors ever seen on a Washington quarter. In these rare, extraordinary pieces, the doubling on "In God We Trust" on the date, and sometimes on the sharp details of Washington's portrait, creates a breathtaking effect that no collector can ignore. It's bold. It's dramatic. It's unmistakable. And when one of these surfaces, the coin world trembles. People have paid $10, $000, $20, $000, $30,000 for mid-grade examples. But the real power, the real emotional punch, comes from the elite survivors, the ones untouched by time, preserved by accident, protected by pure destiny. Those in stunning MS-67 or MS-68 condition have soared to unbelievable values, with reported private negotiations reaching $80,000, $95,000, and even whispers of offers near $120,000 for perfect, museum-quality masterpieces. But the double die isn't the only miracle this coin holds. Not at all. Some 1984 quarters were struck off-center, wild, dramatic, eye-catching errors where Washington's face drifts far away from where it should be. Some of those extreme off-center pieces have sold for $3,000, $000, $6,000, $000, $10,000, depending on how shocking the strike is. Others have rare die cracks forming lightning-like patterns across the coin, giving them unique, one-of-a-kind personalities. Collectors love those. They fight over those. They push values higher and higher because they know they're buying something destiny-made, something that will never exist again. And then there are the condition rarities. People forget that most coins from the 1980s were heavily circulated. They lived rough lives. They were scratched, dropped, tossed into boxes, scraped, worn, battered, and forgotten. To find a 1984 quarter in pristine MS-67 Plus or MS-68 condition is like finding a snowflake perfectly preserved in fire. It feels impossible, yet destiny allows a few to survive. And when those survivors appear, shining, glowing, shimmering under auction lights, the bidding becomes emotional, violent, intense. One collector once described the experience like this: when a perfect 1984 quarter hits the auction floor, your heart knows before your mind does. You feel the energy shift. And he was right. Bidding begins calmly at $5,000, then someone jumps to $9,000, then a new bidder slams down $15,000. The room grows silent, the tension climbs. Then suddenly someone confidently commands $30,000, then $40,000, then a final bidder rises with that life-changing $75,000 offer that ends the battle. That's the emotional gravity of this coin. It's not just metal, it's magic wrapped in a year. Now imagine this moment. You're sorting through old change at home. Nothing special. Just an ordinary day. You tilt a coin under a light, not expecting anything. But then, something catches your eye. A strange doubling. A strange shine. A strange edge. Your heart stops. You bring the coin closer. You examine the date, 1984. And suddenly, without warning, your entire world shifts. Because the coin in your hand, this tiny piece of metal you almost ignored, might be worth tens of thousands, maybe even over $100,000. Your fingers tremble. Your eyes widen. A feeling rises inside you, half fear, half excitement, half disbelief. That's how life-changing discoveries feel. That's the emotional power of this coin. Because destiny doesn't always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it arrives hiding inside pocket change. And here's the most shocking truth. A huge number of these rare 1984 era quarters are still out there. Sitting unnoticed in homes across the country. Sitting behind bookshelves. Inside old coin jars. Inside forgotten boxes. Inside wallets no one has opened in years. They're waiting, quietly, patiently, for the one person who will finally recognize them and change their fate forever. Maybe that person is you. Because the 1984 Washington quarter dollar is not just a coin. It's a story, a miracle, a destiny piece, a sleeping treasure that can awaken at any moment and transform an ordinary life into something extraordinary. So if you ever see a 1984 quarter, don't ignore it. Hold it gently. Look closely. Because inside that little date, inside that small circle of metal, could be a fortune powerful enough to rewrite your future overnight. Next up is the 1985 Washington quarter dollar coin, a coin that millions of people touched, spent, dropped, ignored, and tossed into change jars without ever realizing that some versions of this very coin carry a destiny so shocking, so emotionally overwhelming, so unimaginably valuable that it can turn an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. This is not just a coin. This is a silent miracle from 1985, a year that minted a treasure so unexpected that collectors still speak about it with trembling voices and wide, breathless eyes. Because the 1985 quarter, especially its rare errors and high-grade survivors, has shattered expectations and reached values of $15,000, $000, $40,000, $000, $65,000, $000, and even private negotiations rumored to push past $110,000 for the most unbelievable specimens ever discovered. This coin is a reminder that destiny hides in small places. That fortune sometimes wears the mask of something ordinary. That miracles don't always shine, they wait, quietly, for the right person to notice them. And the 1985 quarter is one of those miracles. The biggest shock surrounding this coin comes from the 1985 P ultra-high-grade examples, especially those graded MS-67 and MS-68.
Why?
Because nearly all 1985 quarters were used heavily. They lived rough lives. They were shoved into pockets, scraped against keys, tossed into counters, rolled through coin machines, dropped on concrete, and used by millions without a second thought. That means pristine survivors, perfect, untouched, flawless, are almost impossible to find. But a few did survive, mysteriously, miraculously, protected by fate. And when they appear, they ignite bidding wars that feel more like emotional battles than auctions. There are stories of MS-67 examples selling $4.2, $000, $3, $000, even $5,000. But the real thunder comes from the MS-68 legends, coins so perfect, so clean, so mirror-like that they glow under the lights like frozen lightning. These have shocked collectors with values of $10, $000, $15, $000, $20,000, and whispers of private offers reaching as high as $60,000. And yes, there are unconfirmed but widely circulated collector stories of a near-perfect MS-68 Plus 1985 P that was offered over $100,000. That is the power of rarity. That is the power of destiny. But high-grade coins aren't the only miracles hiding in the 1985 quarter. Some of the most emotional, shocking, jaw-dropping discoveries came from error coins. Coins struck by mistake, coins born from chaos inside the mint, coins that destiny touched with its own unpredictable hand. One of the most astonishing is the 1985 off-center quarter, especially the ones with dramatic 60% or 70% off-center strikes. These look like the coin was pulled sideways during the strike, leaving Washington's face drifting toward the edge like a ghost. These pieces have sold $4.1, $000, $3, $000, $5,000, and the wildest, most extreme examples have reached values of $8,000 or more. But the real emotional earthquake comes from the double-struck errors, coins hit twice or even 3 times inside the minting chamber. Some of these look like overlapping faces, twisted edges, or doubled letters so shocking that you'd think the coin survived an accident. These rare, dramatic errors have sold $4.7, $000, $12, $000, $18,000 depending on quality and clarity. Then there are the off-metal errors, the tiny handful of 1985 quarters accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, such as copper-nickel mistakes or even foreign coin blanks. These are unbelievably rare, almost mythical, and when one surfaces, collectors go silent. Then they explode. These rare pieces can reach $25, $000, $40,000, and even more if in stunning condition. And now, imagine the emotional moment when someone finds one of these coins. Picture yourself opening an old drawer. Maybe it's your father's drawer. Maybe your grandfather's. You see an old jar of coins, dusty, forgotten, filled with decades of ordinary change. You casually pick up a few quarters, thinking nothing of it. But then, one coin catches your eye. Something about it feels different. The shine, the surface, the edges. Your heart begins to race. You lift it under the light. You tilt it. You look at the date, 1985. Suddenly your breath disappears. There's doubling on the letters. Or maybe the strike looks off-center. Or maybe the coin surface is so perfect, so crisp, so flawless that it looks untouched by time. And in that silent, electrifying moment, you realize you might be holding a rare treasure worth tens of thousands, maybe even over $100,000. Your fingers tremble. Your chest tightens. A rush of fear and excitement floods your body. Because this is the moment collectors dream about, the moment where a simple coin becomes a doorway to a new life. A moment where destiny taps you on the shoulder and whispers, "This is your miracle." Auction houses have seen these emotions explode in real time. A 1985 error quarter once sparked such intense bidding that the crowd went silent. One bidder started at $4,000. Another jumped to $8,000. Then someone slammed down $12,000. The room shifted. Energy climbed. Then suddenly, without warning, a collector raised their hand with a final crushing offer of $18,000, ending the battle. And the winner didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He stood there in emotional disbelief, as if he had just claimed a piece of destiny itself. That is the power of the 1985 quarter. A coin that transforms lives not through fame, but through rarity. Not through size, but through destiny. Not through design, but through the miraculous mistakes and perfect survivals that time has preserved. And the most shocking truth? Many of these rare 1985 quarters are still out there. Still hiding. Still waiting. Sitting quietly in homes, drawers, old collections, and forgotten boxes across the world. Waiting for the one person destined to find them. Maybe that person is you. So whenever you see a 1985 quarter, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Look at it closely. Hold it gently. Examine every detail. Because inside that one small coin could be the fortune that changes everything. A life-changing treasure disguised as spare change. A destiny sealed in metal. A miracle waiting to be discovered. Next up is the 1986 Washington $quarter coin. A coin that looks so ordinary, so familiar, so painfully simple that millions of people have spent it without ever realizing that this tiny piece of metal carries a destiny so shocking, so emotionally powerful, so unimaginably valuable that it has rewritten lives, shattered expectations, and turned unsuspecting people into overnight millionaires. Because the 1986 quarter, especially its rare errors, minting miracles, and impossibly high-grade survivors, is one of those hidden treasures that destiny quietly spreads across the world, waiting for the right person to discover it. And when that discovery happens, the emotional impact is indescribable. Because this coin has reached values of $15, $000, $40, $000, $80, $000, and even rumored private offers pushing toward $150,000 for the most breathtaking, near-perfect examples ever found. This is a coin born in a year where no one expected anything special. A year where collectors barely looked twice. A year where millions of these quarters were tossed into pockets, pushed into cash registers, scraped against tables, dropped on sidewalks, spent at grocery stores, fed into parking meters, and ignored by almost everyone. But fate had a different plan. Because hidden among the millions of ordinary strikes, a tiny number of extraordinary miracles were created. A few coins with rare errors. A few coins with shocking doubling. A few coins with off-center strikes that look like they were pulled sideways by fate. And an almost impossible handful of coins struck so perfectly, preserved so flawlessly, protected so mysteriously that they became some of the rarest condition survivors of the entire decade. One collector once said, "A 1986 quarter in MS-68 condition isn't just a coin, it's lightning trapped inside metal." And he was right. Because nearly all 1986 quarters are scratched, worn, damaged, tossed around by millions of hands. Finding one in near-perfect, shimmering, untouched condition is like finding a diamond at the bottom of a river. It feels impossible. Yet fate allowed a few to survive. And when they appear at auction, the world pays attention. Some MS-67 examples have sold $4, $800, $1, $200, $2,000. But the real emotional shock comes from the MS-68 legends, coins so flawless, so crisp, so sharp that their surfaces reflect light like liquid silver. These have reached values of $10, $000, $15, $000, $20,000, and whispers of private offers reaching $70, $000, $90, $000, even more for the highest-graded pieces known to exist. And then there are collector rumors, quiet, mysterious, spine-chilling, about a single 1986 specimen offered nearly $150,000 because of its perfect strike, perfect luster, and perfect destiny. But the rarest treasures of the 1986 quarter are the error coins, the minting mistakes born from chaos, chance, and fate. Some of the most dramatic are the off-center strikes, where Washington's face drifts into the edge of the coin like a ghost caught in a storm. These errors have sold $4.2, $000, $4, $000, $6,000, and the most extreme off-center examples, though 60% or 70% off, have reached values of $8,000 or more. Then there are the double-struck errors, coins hit twice inside the mint, creating overlapping images, doubled edges, and twisted details that collectors adore. These dramatic errors can sell for $6,000, $10,000, $0,000, $14,000, depending on how shocking and clear the mistake is. But the most emotional, jaw-dropping stories come from the off-metal errors, coins accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. Some rare 1986 quarters were struck on nickel planchets, some on copper blanks, and one rumored piece on a foreign coin blank. These kinds of errors are unbelievably rare, almost mythic. And when they appear, they explode with values of $20, $0,000, $35, $0,000, $50,000 or more. Now imagine, truly imagine, the moment someone discovers one of these rare 1986 treasures. Picture an old box in your home. Maybe it belonged to your father. Maybe your grandfather. Maybe it's a box you haven't opened in years. You lift the lid. Inside is a jar of old change, dusty, forgotten, untouched. Quarters from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. You pick up a handful, not expecting anything. They clink together softly. You tilt one under a lamp. Something catches your eye. Something strange. Something glowing. You bring it closer. The edges look perfect. The fields shine like they were frozen in time. You turn it over. Your breath disappears. The date: 1986. You feel your heartbeat change. A chill rises through your chest. Your hands tremble. Because this coin, this one coin, could be worth thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even more than $100,000, depending on what destiny left on its surface. Maybe it's a doubled die. Maybe it's an off-center strike. Maybe it's struck on the wrong planchet. Maybe it's a condition rarity, preserved by fate for decades. Whatever it is, you suddenly realize you're holding something powerful. Something emotional. Something life-changing. Collectors have lived this exact moment. One man found a flawless 1986 quarter in his late grandfather's toolbox. He thought it was junk. He cleaned the box. He almost threw the coin away. But something felt different. Weeks later, that coin sold for nearly $20,000. Another person bought a bag of mixed old coins at a flea market for a few dollars. Inside was a 1986 off-center strike with incredible detail. That coin sold for $8,400 at auction. And one of the most emotional stories came from a woman sorting through her husband's old belongings after he passed away. She found a small box labeled "Coins for Laundry." Inside that box was a flawless 1986 P-quarter graded MS-68. She had no idea. Months later, that coin sold for over $15,000. She cried when she received the check, not because of the money, but because her husband unknowingly kept a treasure that would help her in her hardest moments. That is the emotional power of this coin. That is the destiny hidden inside the 1986 Washington quarter. A coin born ordinary, but chosen by fate to become extraordinary. And the most shocking truth of all? Many more of these rare 1986 quarters are still out there. Waiting. Hiding. Sleeping inside drawers, coin jars, boxes, and pockets across the world. Waiting for someone, maybe you, to discover them. So whenever you see a 1986 quarter, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Don't pass it without looking. Hold it gently. Look with purpose. Because the fortune that could change your life forever might be hiding inside that tiny circle of metal, waiting for the moment you finally see its value.